we're sorry to announce that, contrary to earlier reports, US F1 will not be able to take part in this podcast. Hello, welcome to The Speed Show. It's a new way of describing it. I'm the Speed Man, he's the Speed Man.
Hello.
And he's the Speed Man.
Hello.
You haven't got names.
We are the Speed Men.
We are the Speed Men. And we love cars. Do you love cars?
I'm pretty fond of them.
Do you love cars, Richard, by any chance? You do love cars. You love British cars, don't you?
I like all cars. I was going to say, I think one of the ways in which you know you love cars is that you could find browsing on the Auto Trader website a recreational habit.
Oh, yeah.
Which I was doing today. I suddenly realised that Mercedes E55s, the supercharged ones, are surprisingly cheap. When I say cheap, of course, I mean cheap compared to what they cost new.
Originally, yeah.
And it's a sort of false economy, because in a way, to put it in perspective, I'm talking about the old Shape E-Class, the one that's sort of quite recently been replaced, and was around from the sort of early 2000s until last year. And the E55 version, I remember driving sort of when it was relatively new, and it was one of the best cars that I drove around that time. I mean, by a mile. It was just a superb piece of weaponry. And they were, 60, 70 grand new. And now they're down to the 15 mark.
No!
So when I say cheap, I'm talking in relative terms, but that is a lot of car for the money. That's, have you also noticed how expensive new cars are?
Well, I was just going to say, 15 grand isn't cheap exactly, but it's what you might well be spending on a new car.
Have you got a car? I'm just going to go and get a car mag.
I'll get you one. Which one?
Grab that. Order car over there.
Autocar.
Perfect.
That's good. We'll take a look at that. It's got listings in the back, so here we go. How much? This is a good question, actually, because don't look in there, Gareth.
All right,
I'm going to ask you a question, and I want your honest answer without you having seen the answers first. How much is an entry-level Focus, do you imagine? Without discounts or scrappage or anything like that.
Entry-level Focus. So it's what's the smallest engine these days? 1.4 in a Focus, or 1.6?
Well, I thought that, but it turns out it's a 1.6 now.
1.6. Okay. I'd say it's probably 16,500, isn't it?
I would have gone a little lower, 14.5.
I'd have gone close to Zog. However, the answer, at least according to Autocar, we should probably check this before, but sod it, is £17,870.
There you go.
Wow.
For a Focus, 1.6
Wow,
style, 5-door. There is a 3-door. You see, the 3-doors, actually, there isn't a style. They don't do a bog. You remember in the old days when the 3-door was the basic model, but now 3-doors are sort of sporty.
Yeah, that's what
there isn't. The 3-door range kicks off with the Z-Tech. So there you go. The cheapest Focus you can get is a 5-door hatchback, and it's nearly £18,000. Now, in my head, medium-sized hatchbacks start at, like
11.
you said, well, I'd say these days, allow for a bit of inflation and all that, 13 or 14 grand. Not so. Yeah. I mean, basically, I don't think you can get, without discount, a Fiesta or a Yaris or a Micra or anything like that for much around 10. 10's where they kick off, and it's like,
well, they tend to have more equipment on these days.
They do. It's true. And of course, there are a lot of discounts flying around at the moment because they want them to be your business, or they'll do your scrappage deal. It's just been extended again, hasn't it, to March? So, but my point being that, and I'm a bit of a sucker for a big, powerful saloon car with an automatic gearbox where you gently depress your foot, and then things in the distance suddenly become things that are really close, and I love all that, and I like a supercharger. So my two favourite big saloons are the E55 and the Jaguar XJ-R, the aluminium one that's just stopped being made, and they are £15,000 for a...
Are they really?
I saw one for £10,000.
And it's the same 5-litre supercharged engine in the XJ-R as the XF-R currently, isn't it, I think?
No, it's not, but I can see where you're trying to link to. No, it's the old 4.2 in those, but that's still a decent engine. However, I'm glad you brought up the XF-R, Gareth, because I believe that you've been driving it.
Thank you, Richard. Yes, that's right. One of the greatest things that happened in my life in the last few months was the pleasure of spending a week in a red Jaguar XF-R, which... God, it was
So what was it like?
Oh, God, it was... Do you know what, Zog? You know the best girlfriend you've ever had? It's like really great. I could wax lyrical here, but actually, while I was driving this car between North Wales and London, I got my recorder out and recorded my initial thoughts of the car after the first few days. I really like the suede interior covering to the A-pillars. Very nice. It's an interesting colour, a kind of almost indigo black. The cruise control works rather well as well. It has fairly easy to understand controls on the spokes of the steering wheel, easier than the Mercedes I drove recently. I find that the adjustment of the speed is a little slow. It's a click for probably 2 miles per hour. Maybe it should be a click for 5 miles per hour, because it means quite a lot of rolling up and down if you want to alter your speed. The information entertainment system works rather well. Touchscreen is nice and intuitive. It works great with my mobile phone. It's paired up to it very nicely. Because it's quite a hard-sprung car, because it's the R version, touchscreen is a little tricky to use sometimes, although the button areas are nice and large, but I guess iPhone users wouldn't find it too difficult. I think I might prefer hard buttons on the dashboard somewhere to press rather than the screen, but navigation works great. It is a deliciously uncompromised car in that you can smooth along in a kind of wafty Jaguar way, and then if the need comes to you, you can just use the pedal shifts to knock down a couple of gears and off the little Red Devil goes at an incredible pace. And my gosh, it's sticky. Almost as sticky as that Exige I drove. Slightly bugs me that the adjustment for the memory for the driver's seat position is in a different place to the actual seat adjustment itself. The seat adjustment is on the seat, that's logical, but the memory is actually on the door, and it took me a little while to work out where that was, but I've only been driving the car 3 days, and it took me 3 days to work that out. I like the fact that it's got 3 cup holders alongside me. That's something. I like everything about this car. I'd prefer it if it had tan colour seats instead of black. Being black makes it very much a BMW M Series kind of thing, and I think it should retain just a little more of the Jaguar DNA, but I'm sure tan is an option. I think it worked rather well with the red colour of this particular car. I also like the proximity alerts that you get in the wing mirrors. The wing mirrors have a little yellow indicator that shows up when there's a car alongside you in your blind spot, and it's very useful. Not this car has much of a blind spot. It has its faults though, this car. 3 things come to my attention over the 3 days. The first one is that I think the front bumper is slightly loose. I noticed that there was quite a panel gap that there shouldn't be, and so I've had to sort of click it back into position several times, and I definitely haven't touched anything because the proximity alert and the parking is so good there's no danger of you touching anything, and I know I haven't. The bonnet seems to rise up slightly at ultrasonic speeds. That makes me a little nervous about going quickly. And once, and only once, after I retracted the wing mirrors at a service station, the wing mirrors failed to come out again. So I had to pull over and physically push them out manually, but that doesn't seem to have been a problem again, unless it's a button somewhere that I've missed. And there are quite a lot of buttons on the dashboard. The controls for the sat-nav and the comms and everything require you to press a back button when you want to get out of navigation into comms mode to make calls and things. But these really are very minor little observations, and it's kind of like assessing a new girlfriend and finding out that you think you might prefer her with shoulder length hair rather than, I don't know, short hair cut around the back of her ears, but you still quite like her even with short hair. This is an extraordinary car. It's fantastic. Possibly the single most useful car I've ever driven, because...
5 miles, there is heavy traffic.
Okay, in 5 miles there's heavy traffic. That means I better drive more quickly now and pay attention to it, I suppose. It's the most uncompromised car I've ever driven, in that it goes as quick as an Elise. Its top speed is limited to 155. I think that might be enough, but you can carry your family in it, so I suppose you could call this car a off car. And it's not just a off car, it's and take your family with you. Wonderful. Well done, Jack. So apart from those sort of small issues, the fact that the wing mirrors were a bit dodgy and the bonnet looked like it was going to lift off and the front bumper was a bit loose, and actually I can justify all this. Do you know who had the car before me?
Go on.
Tiffany Dell, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a press car. And as you know, press cars often get fairly battered.
Yeah, they do also get looked after in as much as they take them back to the workshop and they're given a good going over. However, you do sometimes see this where you'll see sort of older car advertised and it'll say the original press demonstrator. I mean, if it is something like a Bristol and it's from the 70s, well, you think actually that's been rebuilt and it won't have been treated badly, and probably Tony Crook only lent it to one journalist who wasn't really a journalist because he hated the press. That's not a problem if you're buying a Bristol. But you'd sometimes see it for something more recent and you'll think...
Maybe
ex-press car. You mean it's been ragged to within an inch of its life over and over again, and although it's been at the same time very, very carefully looked after, and some manufacturers... I'm not going to name any names, even though I know a few things, do actually build press cars a bit more carefully than. There's one.
Take the best one off the line or something.
Yeah, well, they just tend to make sure they're absolutely tippity top. And there's some things that are sort of apocryphal stories, extra soundproofing. There's a story, certainly, I know a couple of things. One, a car manufacturer that used to run slightly different ECUs in the press cars. Sort of bespoke to make sure they were absolutely in fine fettle. And secondly, there was another company that used to send all their press cars through the paint shop twice to get an extra layer of lacquer on them. So they're extra shiny. Well, there's no harm in that. It's that's quite clever because they look better in photos. I mean,
but it is a bit of a cheat.
It's a bit of a cheat. And there's one, but they used to completely rebuild the suspension with different specification parts in it that were more expensive.
Hang on, Richard usually says something at this point, but I'm going to ask Zog to do it this time.
It's TV's Violet Berlin.
Hey! Hello, V.
Thank you. Hello. I couldn't help overhearing, and I have a question for Richard.
Yes.
Which is, if you were thinking of buying a car and you could buy an ex-press car, would it be good to buy it because it had been made more carefully or was more shiny?
Yeah.
Or, crucially, would it be bad to buy it because the journalists who drive them treat them worse than hire cars?
Well, I don't know. Well, first of all, I know some journalists probably do. I don't. You don't, do you? I think someone's lent you a nice car for a week.
Yeah.
You treat it with respect. You send it back, and you don't leave, apple cores in the door bins and things like that. I'm speaking about someone I know who does do that.
I wasn't thinking of apple cores in the door
bins.
No,
but also just treat it like ragged. Drive it like you hired it.
Yeah.
I do it on the car. Nissan GT-R press car. Don't go near. It will have been thrashed. Absolutely thrashed because it's that kind of car. Ford Focus RS, the Ford press garage will have replaced the clutch on that several times, but that's fine. So you'll know the clutch is probably good because it's brand new and it'll be the 7th one it's had, but other minor components that don't wear noticeably over the sort of few months it's on the press fleet will have taken a battering nonetheless. If it's, I don't know, a Nissan Micra, well, they don't take those down to Millbrook and try and get a 0 to 60 time out of them most of the time. Someone from the Sheffield Evening Badger will have pottered around it a bit to write a review, so that's okay. Once when I worked on Old Top Gear, we got a letter from somebody who went, I saw a montage of stuff on your programme and it featured a Rover Metro and I couldn't help noticing it's my wife's car. What's going on? And I looked back and went,
you stole it.
It was some footage that was taken from Top Gear's original test of when the Rover Metro came out in 1990, and obviously after it had been a press car and been, in this case, pottered around by Chris Goffey.
The first thing you notice, I'm wearing a jumper.
Yeah, controls fall easily to hand. And his big beard and his big jumper. And I'm sure a lot of other journalists with beards and jumpers potted around in it. And then it was sold. And this bloke had bought it third hand for his wife. And he went, should I be worried about this? Because, I didn't realise it had been a press car. But the thing is, those original Rover Metro press cars were pretty much hand-built. And they were a lot better made, perhaps, than the ones
to take what Violet's saying and to ask that question again in a slightly different way, should I be worried that there were a few faults with that fantastic car I drove?
I think that car's had a knock. Someone's driven that car into something. Actually, that brings me on to something else that I want to talk about at some point. There's a few cars at the moment that, no matter how many times you see them around, you always do a double take just to take in the fact that they're really nice looking cars. One is the new Fiesta.
Yeah,
you see them around all the time now.
A lot of detail.
There's a lot to take in on that car, and it does not get any less good looking. That's the best looking small car out there at the moment, and really handsome as well. It's not sort of cutesy. It's a proper nice looking car, I think. Nice detailing. The other is the Jag XF, which I still think is one hell of a good looking car. And I never get bored.
My head snaps around every time. And the thing I like about it is the way that it hides its bulk, because it is quite a big car, but it just doesn't seem it when you drive it, when you look at it. But when you get in it, you go, wow, this is like a Ford Granada in the back. It's absolutely fab.
Like a Ford Granada in the back.
Well,
in a good way.
In a good way,
it's a good looking car. But I've never seen one with what appeared to be an ill-fitting front bumper bumper. I think someone's nudged that, bust some of the clips,
and they're not held on properly.
Yeah, they aren't held on properly, and I don't know. Or it's had a real bump, which is probably why some other bits aren't working properly. Because if the bonnet is moving around at speed, I've driven that car, and I never noticed that. I mean, unlike a Ford Mustang, where they all do that.
It looked like it was bulging. It really looked like it was going to go.
That sounds like it's had a bit of a bump.
Anyway, that car, regardless of its faults, was utterly intoxicating. Apart from the 17 miles per gallon average I got out of it, which was a bit of a disappointment. But you know what? One of the questions that they ask people who like cars is, when was the last time you got up early just to go for a drive?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that XF-R was that car. And it also, I did something like a 200-mile detour between North Wales and London, which is quite an achievement. I went off to Peterborough, I went all over the place, showing off in the car.
I haven't done that for a while, but I used to do that sometimes where I'd just go, do you know what? I've never been to King's Lynn. I'll go and have a look, see what it's like. You go, oh, I'm here now. It's all right, I'll go home again. But it was just because you want to drive it. I haven't driven a car for 5 or 6 days. I'm working at home at the moment. I haven't driven a car. I've gone and hidden my Mercedes in the underground car park at the BBC, because otherwise it was going to get a parking ticket. So I can't even just go out and get in the car. The car's 8 miles away. And I'm going away this week. I haven't driven a car. I'm starting to feel a bit weird that I haven't driven a car, even in London, where driving's not a great deal of fun, but just the act of driving, I haven't done it.
Well, you remember the sequence, don't you? Sit down, put the key in, put the seatbelt on.
Oh, you see, that's where I was last time. I was standing up.
You know.
Yeah. So I love the
Lexus at the moment.
The Lexus is also in the underground car park of the BBC, where the battery's gone flat, which is the first time it's failed to proceed, probably ever in its entire life. Yeah, I don't know. Does anyone want to buy an old Lexus? I'll take an offer on it, because as I think I mentioned on the show, I basically got it for free. But the thing is, I'm not using it, and it's a bit of a waste of a car that's still got some life left in it. So if you'd like an old Lexus, because I've spent a bit of money on just getting it MOT'd and things like that, I will want some money for it. But, make me an offer and we'll see what happens. Comedy offers, you will be put on to sniff petrol under the heading list of twats, so don't even bother. But if you seriously want an old Lexus, even if you come in with 50 quid, I'll consider it. All right, you can send it, you can email me if you like. Should we email the show? You can email onspeed@garethjones.tv and I'll forward it to Richard. Or you can email contact at sniffpetrol.com. Either's good, or both, because I'm sure Gareth would like to see who's going to be on the list of twats and who might be buying my Lexus. But you're welcome to it.
So now I want to wrap this up. I love the XF-R, despite those faults. I'm sure I can forgive it. I loved it so much I could forgive it anything, that car, and it was red. Oh, lovely. And I can't wait to drive the XJ, which I'm going to do in April, I think.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh,
lovely. Anyway, that's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Hello. This is Tiffany Dell. Now, look, Jones, I gave that Jag back in perfect condition. You're trying to blame me things that aren't my fault. That's typical of you sort of people. I know you think you're Nigel Mansell or something. Look, I've raced at Le Mans in a Jaguar. I know I take curb guys. In fact, I've raced at Le Mans 14 times. How many times have you raced at Le Mans? I bet that's a big fat zero, Jones. So just go back and sort yourself out. I did no harm at all to that Jaguar. Goodbye.
Gareth Jones on speed! It's actual Tiffany Dell! Brilliant!
As you know, we don't rehearse or pretty much organise ourselves in any way before we start talking on this programme. I don't think they can tell, honestly. I'm sure it sounds as polished as a turd. No, but I have to confess that earlier on we did a conversation where, Zog, you suggested an idea for the show about technology in cars, of a theme for conversation.
We were talking about what we might do for this show, and I was just saying we should maybe have a little chat about what kinds of technologies we might like to see coming in on cars of the future. This doesn't have to be something that would actually work. It could be something that's clearly ridiculous, whether it's the self-driving car, the sort of the road train idea on a motorway. Pretty boring from a driver's point of view, but very practical from a sociological point of view.
Do you remember me saying how I drove that Lexus LS, whatever it was, 460, whatever it's called now, 420, I forget, 450?
Wasn't it 600, because it was the hybrid one? Yeah.
That's it, thank you. From Derbyshire to London, with the adaptive cruise control, I literally set it when I got on the motorway, and then unset it. I took my feet off the pedals. When I arrived in London, it was gorgeous. And that XFR I drove had excellent adaptive cruise. That's science fiction for me now. It sounds ridiculous, but you could.
But it's almost there.
If I found a Lexus who was doing that, I'd go and tuck in behind him. Or if I found another XFR, I'd tuck in behind him, and that would do me. So it sounds like fantastic from even 5 years ago.
It's funny that, because I haven't tried those adaptive cruise systems for... when did they first come out?
You had a Merc C-Class with it once, didn't you, a long time ago?
I remember I had a Jaguar with it, and I had a BMW 7 Series with it, and a Merc. Yeah, I definitely drove... they were the three who had it first, I think. And so I think Jaguar just there first, and then probably Mercedes, and then BMW, I don't forget. But... I like the fact I did it with the Merc. It's an amazing thing that you can be on the motorway and then you suddenly tuck into the inside lane behind a truck and it'll do a massive hard on the anchors thing. And that I found quite reassuring. But what I didn't like about them back then, and I think that's because they were the first generation systems, I found them a bit fidgety. They were always you felt them just dabbing the brakes. And I started to think, I bet they're just dabbing the brakes. It means the brake lights are coming on, which is making me look like a really inept driver, because there's nothing that annoys me more than people who are always dabbing their brakes on the motorway, because it means they're not driving properly on the motorway. They're not driving enough for gap. They're not anticipating enough. They're inept. And the worst thing is often you get, and they're usually in some kind of turbo diesel Audi at the moment, it seems, but there's someone who's such a lane hogging bumper hugger that they're constantly, the brake lights just dab brakes, dab brakes, dab brakes. It's because they're 3 mil from the car in front. And if they weren't such a stupid gurning moron, they wouldn't need to touch the brakes at all, because you don't on a free-flowing motorway, which I grant you isn't always that often. And so I gave up on adaptive cruise, and when I've driven cars that have got it, I've never even bothered to try it, because I've assumed it'll just irritate me and make me look like I can't drive. I bet we're probably on like 3rd, 4th generation systems now, so yeah, I bet they're perfectly good.
So if it wasn't adaptive cruise, what technology would you have on a car, Richard?
I don't know. What I do think is, now we've sort of got to a point where we crave immediacy and we get frustrated when things aren't... And I'm talking about, for example, just before we started recording, I was telling you about a Will Ferrell sketch from Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
And then I just went and found it on the internet. Yeah. And if I couldn't have found it, I'd have found it slightly irritating. It's like a song pops into your head, and between YouTube and Spotify, which if you haven't got, is glorious, wonderful thing. It's a really great thing. At the moment, they're not letting people join unless you got an invitation or something. Anyway, we digress.
I think there are easy ways around that.
Yeah. Okay. Are there? All right.
So Spotify edition.
Well, exactly. That's the thing. I think this is. You want this accessibility to the things that make your life more pleasant, and for me, and I guess all of us, that one of those things is a bit of access to music and the music we love, but also access to new music or
net
just
access.
Net access. Well, yeah, not when you're driving along, but there is that. What I'm thinking is, what I want is a complete integration of all the electronic stuff I own. It's why I like the iPhone. It's not because people go, "Oh, you got an iPhone because it's really trendy," and it's not. No, it's just you have to accept that all mobile phones are a bit rubbish in some way. Why not just have the one that's the least rubbish and actually is rather good? And one of the things about it is that it just integrates so many things that unfortunately I need to carry with me or want to carry with me: my diary, my iPod, and my phone. Immediately condensed into one little box. Plus, it has the benefit of it gets my email and I can go on the internet. Now, I'd like that in my car as well, which actually you can sort of have. So that with integrated systems of that ilk, I like.
But in those kind of integrated systems, the detail really matters. And I mean, mentioning the iPhone, that's a good example of how integrating a lot of functions can work really well. If you put enough attention into getting your user interface right, getting the usability right, equally you could combine exactly the same functions that you have in the iPhone, and some other devices do it, but if you don't integrate them well enough, if your software isn't just right, and it can be really tiny things that mess it up, but it will get messed up, it becomes frustrating to use rather than simple to use, and then you hate it rather than loving it.
Wasn't that the theory behind the original iPod, was that nothing should be more than 3 moves away or something?
I'm
wasn't
not
what
sure,
you wanted to do.
In New Zealand, you're only 2 people away from someone else in New Zealand.
Two people away from one of your relatives.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that what it is?
But there's 3 sheep in the gap as well.
In London, where you're never more than 3 metres away from a rat or so.
Which is clearly obviously not true, because if you stand on top of some
plane,
ladders in the middle of, I don't know, a car park, you are clearly more than 3 feet from a rat.
Really bad news for hot air balloonists, though, where they go, "Aha, no rats up here. There is one in the basket. But this is the thing. You're right. The design is all, and I think that's where car makers go badly wrong. Where, I mean, the classic one is the much moaned about BMW iDrive system, where
the much
they were taking
iDrive.
functions. Well, you notice that it's really funny that they've sort of gradually, essentially taken what was a very, very pure, albeit flawed and ultimately quite rubbish and annoying concept, and gradually watered it down. So they started by putting some extra buttons around it, and now it's sort of they've gradually gone, okay, well, to adjust the way that the ventilation system works. It used to be on the iDrive, but we'll put that back on a button. And on the radio tuning, that used to be on the driver. We'll put that back on some buttons now. And it's like they've actually gone back to more buttons because of this.
The trouble with iDrive
shows it was wrong.
Yeah.
Well, the trouble with iDrive,
Apple done
it was trying to.
Yes, that's it. You want Apple to make it.
iDrive was trying to integrate far too many systems on that knurled knob. Just too much.
Too much, and that's the thing. I think you need someone who understands. I don't know. Is it ergonomics or is there another word for it? It's not ergonomics, is it?
I think there's a more specialised name for it. Ergonomics would have to do with the use of a physical object.
It's like sort of
with this,
flow diagram type stuff.
User experience or usability.
That's what they call user interface, don't they? Is that the same thing or is that something else?
Well, yeah. The user interface is the whole thing, but is it?
Because I'll tell you something else.
It's all to do with information architecture. And,
information architecture.
That's it, information architecture. I knew there was a buzz thing for it.
Yeah,
but you know how you were saying about the XFR and the touchscreen in it? I saw you. I heard you saying that was good.
Yeah. It's good, but tricky with the bounty. Because it was so. When you set it on sport, it was very hard. All the R's all over.
And I don't think it's responsive enough. And I think we were sort of okay with that. But then again, I'm sorry to keep going on about the iPhone, but it is just a good bit of kit, and the touchscreen on it is superb.
Yep.
There's nothing else that has a touchscreen.
It's all right when you're holding it in your hand and you're in a car because the whole thing is moving.
Yeah, but the
sync.
sensitivity and the accuracy of the screen on the iPhone, I think, is set. It's just at a different level of technology. It's the new sort of next generation of whatever the film is that makes them work. I always thought the one in all cars, actually, that I've tried with the touchscreen, it's just a bit. There's that bit where you press it and then you go, oh, it hasn't worked. And then so you end up sort of really mashing the end of your finger into it, and then the screen is incredibly greasy. You've suddenly got the sun behind you one day when you're driving down the road and you just go, oh my God, it just looks like the bottom of a frying pan on that screen. It's really a ugly thing. The
thing I like best about the XFR was the little dance, by the way, the knurled knob that is your gear control comes up and the air vents up. I've put a bit of video up for you guys to see if you're wondering why that was there. I had to share that with you. But sorry, that technology I like, that's a surprise and delight feature. Right, Zog, what would be your surprise and delight feature technology? Is it something sophisticated or novel?
I don't know if this is a surprise and delight, but in my fevered imagination is coming to cars in the future is some way of expressing on the outside of a vehicle on a larger scale what's happening on the face of the driver.
I like that idea.
Maybe you've got some kind of LED panel arrangement or holograms. Okay, you've got some holographic projection of your head on top of your car. Now,
you're just going to have traffic jams full of people like 7 feet high heads picking their noses.
Yeah,
or is this just because you want to call people a and make sure they realise it?
You see, you're thinking this is some terrible vision of hell. Okay, the reason why this might actually be a good idea is just think about how much information you get from when you're driving in traffic and whether you're deciding, whether you're going to let someone out of a side street or whether you're the person coming out of the side street and you're not sure whether someone's going to let you into the flow of traffic. Yeah. You're turning right, somebody else is going to turn right at a junction. You're not sure whether they're going to do the near side to near side or off side to off side. All these... So many of these little things that are very important in everyday driving are cleared up the moment you get a bit of eye contact or you realise where somebody is looking.
Yes, that's true.
And if all of a sudden your head is in some way projected enormously on the outside of your vehicle, obviously it looks ridiculous. Obviously it's kind of, a bit like you've just dropped acid and you're entering some sort of hellish world of nightmarish urban traffic. But actually, I think it could work. It's not such a dumb idea.
What if it was just your own head, but sort of twice the size, projected as a hologram that floated
that's what I'm saying,
your car? Is that what you're thinking?
Sorry, that's what I was saying before.
Where the whole sort of, like the bonnet of the car had your face on it, but I suppose depending on the angle of the bonnet would... Yeah, I see what you mean now, the hologram idea I like a lot.
I think the hologram, above the car. But,
do you know what? Who should market that? The people who make the London Taxi?
Yes.
Metrocab.
LTI. Yeah.
Car bodies. Isn't it?
Not anymore, no.
Was. In that case, it has sport mode gates. It's car bodies because you've got a head, but seemingly with a car for a body.
But I was thinking also about police cars because hilariously they would have like a policeman's head, but then a light on top of that as well.
They are.
But maybe they should force the policeman. He should have to mime along to the siren. You're going, woo, 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 woo.
And you actually, and you make the policeman wear an actual light on his head inside the car.
Oh, this idea gets better and better.
You see.
Can I just say something?
Because I could see in your eyes you weren't quite convinced before.
No, I am now. I'm really behind you on this, even though I will personally disconnect the system because it'd be a bit weird. So how like privacy in my car. But just something I've remembered on a not dissimilar tip, because I always thought, we have indicators left and right. Why don't we have the "I'm going straight on" light?
I agree.
Yeah, good.
I've always
finally,
thought that.
I'm sorry, I'll wrap this up. But one more thing that you could do right now. It's not complicated. I want an indicator on the back of every car that tells you what gear that car is in, so you see when they change gear. Because then you would get an idea of if someone was really going for it. It's like, oh my God, he's really holding it in second, isn't he? And also, if someone is making a mess of their gear changing, it's like, what? We're doing 10 miles an hour. Why are they in fifth? Oh, it's a minicab. Then you'd have an understanding of what kind of driver they were, and you'd know if you should be wary.
I want two things. I want an indicator on the rear of the car in front, which tells me when the driver's eye line is outside the shape of the front windscreen. So immediately he's looking down at the... OK, that bloke's not concentrating.
Yes.
OK.
I'd like that one.
That's a nice one, yeah.
And most of all, what I would like is a car made out of a memory metal. So my poor old Sora, which has got dings in it from being parked in London, within a couple of days would have grown back that little ding that it had before, that dent, and would now be as good as new.
The technology exists to do that.
Well, I think it probably does.
Come on, car makers, pull your finger out.
You've been listening to Gareth Jones, Richard Porter.
Goodbye.
And Zog.
Goodbye.
Now, usually I introduce a song at this stage, but because this is Richard's baby, you can do it.
Yeah, after a short absence, that is the return of the Gareth Jones on Speed in-house 1980s synthesizer duo, the Pit Stop Boys.
Right.
And this song is called Nobody Likes X5s. You could do a lot of work for charity and have once saved some orphans from inside a burning flat. But the very second you buy a 4x4 with a blue and white propeller on the front, everyone will just assume you're a twat. You could be a retired war criminal or someone who lists their hobby as stringing kittens up by their feet. I can guarantee you'll still be more popular than that bloke in the German SUV trying to get out of a side street.
Wherever you go, however you drive, if you've got an X5, nobody likes you. Celebrity chefs and footballers' wives, if you've got an X5, then nobody likes you.
You can be Jesus H. Christ, the Son of God, come back to save mankind from his sins. You accidentally did it in a lame off-roader from Munich. Even the Archbishop of Canterbury would call you a git.
Wherever you go, however you drive, if you've got an X5, nobody likes you. They make rude signs and curse you're alive. If you've got an X5, then nobody likes you. Wherever you go, however you drive, if you've got an X5, nobody likes you. They drench it with phlegm and scratch it with knives. If you've got an X5, then nobody likes you. Nobody likes you. Nobody likes you. Wherever you go, however you drive, if you've got an X5, nobody likes you. Wherever you go, however you drive, if you've got an X5, nobody likes you. Wherever you go, however you drive, if you've got an X5, nobody likes you. Wherever you go, however you drive, if you've got an X5, then nobody likes you.
To send us an email, see pictures, get song lyrics, join our Facebook fan site or follow us on Twitter, go to garethjones.tv. Gareth Jones on Speed is made in London by Whizbang.